Welcome back. I have now completed the Horrors of the Warp DLC campaign, and I'll give you my thoughts on this. Overall, I feel fairly conflicted about this. I don't think this is going the right way in terms of their DLC campaign, so I'll give it a 5 out of 10. Again, really lacks a coherent story. You don't even get to play as Chaos in this DLC, you actually fight against them, and 3 of the units that they give you to try to say, oh, look at all the units we have, 3 of them are pretty much the same unit, just with a different look to them. So I found that to be kind of a slap in the face and pretty lazy. So I think it's pretty overpriced, and it seems like they just kind of churn this out. Like, okay, you guys like Sanctus Reach here, here's Chaos, and we didn't really put a lot of thought and effort into it, and just give me your money. So that kind of frustrated me. It seemed like at the start it was going to be kind of an interesting concept where the first mission you actually play as the orcs, and it's like, okay, they accidentally opened up a connection with the warp here and demons are pulling out, so here's the orcs and you have to fight it. Now they kind of, I think if they would have continued that, okay, here's some missions with the orcs and here's kind of their story, and oh yeah, now Chaos is attacking the Imperial Guard, and then you got to maybe fight Chaos as the Imperial Guard. That's great, and then you'd be losing. Then you'd switch over to the Space Wolves. Something to kind of add a little bit of story instead of like, okay, here's this, and now okay, now you're just the Space Wolves, and just keep doing the same mission over and over and over again, and fight Chaos. Yeah, didn't really do it for me. The other thing that kind of annoyed me was you don't get to play as Chaos, and so you don't get to level up the units, you don't get to get really used to it, and the abilities they gave are just all standard across the board, so there's really no way to create any Chaos units specifically for you. So the only way you get to enjoy playing with Chaos is either doing it online or doing skirmish missions, which is unfortunate. Things I did like about the game, however, is again, Sanctus Reach continues to be a fairly good turn-based strategy game. So if you're into that, this can certainly fill that niche. The DLC felt challenging. If you weren't careful when you were playing the skirmish missions or the campaign missions, it'd be real easy to get overwhelmed, overextend yourself, and you could actually lose it. And Chaos felt fairly powerful, which is the way it should be. And it seems like they've also kind of fixed some of the melee, because it seems like, at least for the Chaos units, they did appropriate amounts of melee damage, so when they got in and got you, it would hurt, so it wouldn't be nearly as variable. That's one of my complaints with this game in the past with the melee, is just it's been so variable that you can go from being like 5 damage to all the way killing units outright, so I'm glad that it feels really damaging when they get into you. Other cons that I didn't like so much about the game is that there still continues to be bugs that have not been fixed. The enemy, when they're getting spawned in, they can still be spawned in on hills that have really no way to get down, so those are just units that are trapped on the hill, which just kind of waste the experience and can sometimes ruin a level. There's also when like the plague drones are floating above, or actually not floating, but flying above certain like light structures and things, they actually don't take damage consistently. So even though your hits are hitting them, they won't get the damage. It just cancels it out. The same as sometimes when you're using missile launchers or the las guns, they take hits and they don't get any damage, and that's not only on the plague drones but on some other units as well. So I think that really needs to be addressed. And the AI again still is not smart enough to destroy obstacles that are in their way. So if they're trapped into levels like the refinery and the fortress, they just sit there until you get your forces up and destroy the obstacles that are in the way. So that really needs to be addressed, because that's very frustrating. Also, when you're playing on Grim Darkness, especially on the campaign missions where they just put in hills, so you're like in a canyon and you got to wiggle your way through the whole mission. All the challenges is just endless amount of forces coming at you, and that can get really tedious. So I really hope they put a little more thought into the gameplay, so it doesn't feel like such a grind when you're playing the campaign missions. The skirmish missions get to be redundant. The campaign missions should be really something unique. That way, it kind of gives you the feeling of something new is about to happen to break up the monotonous nature. But in this DLC, it really just felt like, okay, just a grind to push through these overwhelming odds, and it got to be pretty redundant. You can see, the campaign missions take 3-4 hours, and when you do the same thing for those 3-4 hours, it just gets kind of boring. So I wish they would put a little more thought into that. It seemed like they had put more thought into the other DLCs, especially the Legacy of the Weird Boy. That was actually pretty good. DLC campaign. It had interesting missions and things, so I recommend that. And it seemed like some of the missions on the Red Wall, which is the Sons of Cania DLC, they kind of put a little more thought into this, but this one, it just seemed like, okay, we're not just putting this out. And that was kind of frustrating. So those are my thoughts in closing. Average game. DLC, I would say. I think the game itself, the core game, is pretty good. If you're a big Warhammer 40,000 fan, definitely worth the money. But if you're not a fanatical fan, probably isn't worth your money, and you should give it some time to wait to the price to decrease, because overall it just seems like they churn this out and with the expectation that you're just going to reflexively buy it, which is, to be honest, what I did. So that's why I want to put this video out, so you can make sure you can make an informed decision about whether you want to spend your money at full price on this game or not. So I hope that helps. Hope you have a good day, and thank you for watching. I'll put out more videos Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6 p.m. Midwestern time. Have a good day.